Right, welcome to another one of the tight topics for Photoshop. This one's going to be on the touch-up tools, basically the clone stamp tool and the content-aware tools, okay? You see Photoshop here ahead of you. You see my picture of the gazebo in Pilot Point, which is a little town north of Dallas. And it has the typical problems of telephone poles and things like that, the telephone wires and things like that in it. Let's see what we can do to clean this image up. Going down the left-hand side toolbar, you're going to get to a little either patch tool. You'll see the patch tool, or you'll see probably the healing brush, little band-aid with the item on it. Healing brush tool is these two are two in this group here. The healing brush tool and the patch tool are the two I use. The second healing brush tool, this spot healing brush tool, I should say, is the one I use. The healing brush tool, it works almost the same, except that it requires that you set a source from which you want the program to look to heal the area you're hitting. Most of the time that's not needed. The spot healing brush works perfectly well. So let's use this top tool here. The way you use it essentially is once I've clicked on it, I have a little brush. You see the round brush tool. You can make that brush bigger or larger, just like the other brushes around there by hitting the bracket keys, left and right bracket keys. I've got the mode set to normal. That's where you're going to normally want it. There are some specialized cases where I would use darken, for example, if I'm trying to remove some dark light fringe around something, but I won't get into that right now, so I would use normal. Content aware is right here. Content aware is what I want. And sample all layers. The only time I would do that is that if I had put the in the layers panel here, if I had put a blank layer above this background here and I wanted to do the removal, I would want it to sample the layer below. If I were doing the removal on the blank layer in order to do this non-destructively, I'd say then sample all layers. And as I did the healing brush, I'll brush across this telephone wire to get rid of it. Okay, it is sampling the layer below, so if I turn the top layer off and on, you can see the wire is still there. It's just been able to remove part of it by brushing on it. I won't do that right now. That's the reason you would have sample all the layers on. I'll take that off, that non-destructive layer off, which is a nice smart thing to do, but we'll work on this background layer, and I'll just create a copy of it, of that background layer, and do the same thing. I'll go up here using the healing brush, go across the telephone wire to get rid of it. Okay, if you have something straight like a telephone wire, there's a fast trick to get rid of these things, especially if you have a lot of wires going across your picture. Click once on one side, okay? Click once. Using a brush that's about a little bigger than the thing you want to remove. Then holding down the shift key, move up to the other end and click. It's gone. Now I can go down to this side here, and you'll notice when you get to an edge, I wouldn't stop at the edge here. I would go all the way across the edge because you'll make a smoother transition if you do that. So I'll click once here, holding down the shift key, click there, and it got rid of the wire, making a pretty smooth transition across the roof line there. So that's how the healing tool works, the spot healing tool. It's one of the most useful tools in Photoshop, much better than what Lightroom has. The next one I use a lot is that patch tool. It works similar to this spot healing brush in some ways. It's content aware is, I guess, the way. I'm going to remove this little telephone pole over here by using the patch tool. Draw a circle around what you want, leaving some space around it. Once you have it drawn, take the item that you want to remove by putting your cursor in the middle of the selected area and move it into an area you'd like the program to sample from. Okay, it did that. Now, of course, it made a little bit of a funny spot here, but I can still use the patch tool to try to clean that up. Okay, and just going moving around trying to clean that up. It did a reasonable job. I can see here it didn't. And what I would do to clean this area up, I would use the clone stamp tool, which we haven't talked about yet. The other things you can do with this kind of thing. Let's go back to the spot healing brush. I can remove that telephone pole that's behind the trees. Make the brush by clicking once on the top of the pole and clicking once on the bottom of the pole. Second. And getting rid of the telephone pole. So that's not a hard thing to do at all. Now, what can they do with a clone stamp tool? Okay, the clone stamp tool is a different kind of tool. This is not really a content aware tool, but clone stamp will take anything that I determine as a source, okay, this grass, for example, and clone it or copy it onto something else. If I wanted to get rid of the pole, I could use the healing tools. But if I use the clone stamp tool, if I hold down the option key, you'll see the little target show up. Okay, so I can use the target and say I want that as my target. I'll hold down option and click once. Okay, now I've set that as a target. As I move over now, you can see it starts to preview what I'm doing, and I can move up and down this pole and get rid of the pole. You can see the little X mark is what it's doing is copying where the X is. Okay, and there's sometimes this will work as well as a healing brush, and there's some reasons to use this that work quite well. So that's the way that works. That's the clone stamp tool. Now let's go on to some other broader tools. I'm going to use this to picture the deer here, for example. Where I would use the clone stamp tool quite a bit on a picture like this is, for example, this was taken in the neighborhood, and you see the houses back here. I might not want those houses to show through. Sorry about that. Let's get back to go back to some reasonable zoom. That was a little zooming too much. Say I want to fill this area in with trees. Okay, I could option click over here on these bushes, for example, and then go back and put those bushes in and fill in this area here, so it didn't, you can't see the houses back there. It looks more like a forest, right? So I can, using and resampling, sampling and resampling, I can start to fill in these areas over here, sample, resample, and fill in these areas so that you wouldn't know, sample, resample, and make this look realistically like a nice little forested area without the houses and the street behind it. So that would be a typical use if I wanted to use the clone stamp tool, which is pretty useful. So that's one use of that tool that's pretty good. Now let's use a couple other. Well, I always can clone. I like flowers, so I can always clone more flowers, right? So we can go around here and create more flowers. So that's another thing we can do. Let's use some other tools up here. All right. Let me first select the baby deer. I'm going to select the baby deer using the object selection tool. I explained this tool in another workshop. Draw a rectangle around the object I want to select, and Photoshop will be smart and select the object. Now, in order to get rid of that entire object, I want to get rid of the baby deer, which is sort of cruel to do at this point, but let's do this. Let me go to Edit. I could either use Fill, Content Aware, okay, or I could use Edit, Content Aware, Fill. And these two things work slightly differently. Let me just use the Fill Content Aware first, okay? This is the one, the new. This is brand new. The second Content Aware Fill is new. It works a little bit better. This is an older version. So Fill, you could fill it with black, white, whatever you want to do. But I'm going to do this Content Aware. All right. What I'm trying to demonstrate here is I selected the little deer here, but I should do a little bit more than just what I did here. So I'll hit the Fill, and you'll notice if I deselect it, we have the outline of the deer here. And the reason for that is that when you make a selection and try to replace it like that, you should select a little bit outside of your object so that the program knows a little bit better what to sample. So let's go back. Command Z, put the deer back where it was. The way to do that would be to go to Select, Modify, Expand. And I'm going to say 10 pixels is good. You can 7 pixels is good, whatever. Now you can see the little line is outside the deer slightly. Okay, if I do that same set of steps, Fill, Content Aware, deselect, you can see it did a much better job. All right, because it had the line outside. So don't forget to go to modify and expand a little bit if you're doing this kind of replacement. Let's see how that other item works. Command Z. All right. We did a selection again. I've got it a little bit outside. Let's go to Edit. It doesn't work in this particular case. It actually works better most of the time. In this particular case, it's not needed because the other one works so well. But this is the way this one works. Content Aware Fill. In this particular case, you get a pop-up set of menus here, and you have some options here on the right-hand side. The deer is selected here, and it's giving you a preview of what's going to happen. Okay, if I hit automatic, Photoshop is going to look around the picture, and with this green shading says I'm going to sample from all this area here and fill it in. And Photoshop did a fantastic job. You see the little deer is gone here. Now in some cases it might not, because if it's sampling this whole area out here, it might run, there's a lot of other things out here, it might be picking up other things and putting them into where the deer is, which you don't want. In that case, try custom. Okay, go to custom. Now what you can do is, my cursor is over the little deer. I can say, don't sample the whole picture. Just sample around the deer here. Don't sample the mother deer, but anything else. You can sample some flowers, because maybe you can put some flowers in there for me. And I'll just tell it this is good enough, this sample here. When I release it, look at the right hand side window over here. Bang, it's gone. Now I can say, do I want that to be output to another layer, a duplicate of that layer without the Bambi in it? Just do it on the current layer, make it disappear, or create a new layer with a disappeared Bambi. So let's just do the new layer with a disappeared Bambi. Okay, I'll deselect. Okay, the little deer is gone. It's disappeared because it made a copy of the disappeared deer on it. I don't know how it did that, but it's a little like it's a mask or something. And if I click on and off, you see the deer comes back. Okay, if I have two layers like this and I want to commit them, okay, I can select this top layer. Have shortcut is Command E, and it just merges the two layers together. Now the Bambi's gone. Okay, so that's the tools I would suggest using. There are some other tools. You have other tools, for example, content aware scale, which I've never seen work very well, and I've never used myself. I just don't have any real reason for it. And there's another one down here somewhere, which is content aware move. I believe it's down here. Content aware move, which you're supposed to be able to select something, move it, and it'll fill in behind it. Again, I've never seen that one work really well either. It's much easier for me to either do cloning, like I did if I wanted to create if I wanted to move that Bambi, for example. I would probably do a clone of it. For example, let's see if this is the clone stamp tool. Let me do a couple of, put the Bambi back. I'm going to Command Z, there's the Bambi. I'll deselect the Bambi. If I want to put another one in here, I would just say Option, click somewhere on the Bambi here, and create a new one. So if I wanted to create a new one, this one to me seems to work better than the other one, and I'm able to put this the little new deer wherever I would like it. Anyways, I hope that works. It's a simple view of our content aware tools and the clone stamp tool.